live from our start. Can you please let me know whether you can hear me clearly, whether you can see me clearly? Because we are not in our usual office studio. We are just somewhere in our start. That's probably why there's a bit of delay, because we don't get to show the technical issue popped up. But I think we are already live now. If you just send a simple comment whether the screen is clearly. Because our topic is very unusual, and it's about a scenario where you have 8% GDP growth, and another scenario where you have no traffic jam or lesser traffic jam, no flooding, clean toilet. So it's a topic which I think very few people think about. Definitely, the politicians don't think about it because they don't seem to be able to present the issues and concerns that are concerned to the relation. So you can hear me. If you can hear me clearly, can see me clearly, please let us know. Or if you can't see me or you can't hear me at all, also let us know so that we will have an idea as to whether we are able to sort out the technical issues. That's just a simple, if you can hear me clearly, if you can see me clearly, just a simple yes. If you can't, let us see or hear me, just a simple no. So I haven't gotten any feedback, any response from anyone. I guess maybe nobody is able to hear me, nobody is able to see me. Otherwise, I would have gotten at least a few people to say, yeah, they can see me. It's quite a momentous occasion for me to be in our star. Been here for 4 5 years after the pandemic, and it's going to be not familiar. I'm born in our star, and I'm a star boy. Studied primary school, secondary school here. So it's to be home to me. Yeah, maybe I will start. There is one comment says that the audio is a bit unclear. Something wrong with the audio. Yeah, another person says the voice is very muffled.
Hear what I'm saying? Yeah, another commentary asks us to adjust our audio because they cannot hear clearly. This is Jonathan from Philippines. Something is wrong with the audio. We are trying to fix it. Just give us a few minutes or a few seconds, I hope. line says no sound from SH Tan. I apologize. We thought it was pretty straightforward. Just get the camera, get the phone, get the mic, get the internet connection, and that's it, and we can go live. Yeah,
Somebody from Perth says cannot hear us. And then Jeff says totally no sound at all. Ah, now the audio is even worse from Wong Mason. Okay, I don't know. Then suddenly much better from someone. Okay, from Wong Mason suddenly much better. Well, if you can hear me, I really apologize. I really apologize for this. I think we are really, we still have a lot to learn when it comes to doing this sort of thing. I'm definitely not a techie. All I know is, well, in the last few years, after COVID forced me to use a smartphone, where because if I don't have a smartphone, I cannot have my Sejahtera, right? So because of my Sejahtera, I'm forced to use a smartphone. So I'm only in the last few years I learned how to use a smartphone. In the last 1 or 2 years, learned how to use WeChat. So please excuse me for being such a techie ignorant. And because now we're doing from a hotel, okay, it looks like, seems like, oh, John Doe says cannot hear at all. Okay, the response is very erratic. Some can hear, some can't hear, very erratic. Some say can hear only if they put on the headphone. Ah, boy, if we can't tackle such basic IT technical matter, I'm not sure how AI is going to work out, right? We just had a session this morning in Alostar, right? And basically, most of them were clients of Philip Capital in Alostar. So one of the questions they asked was about AI, whether there are any good AI stocks, what is happening to AI, whether in the future you have investment advice based on AI and so on. So I think that's still a long way to come. As I told the audience this morning, companies like Meta, companies like Microsoft and Alphabet or Google have been talking a lot about AI. I think basically is to push up their share price because if you look at it from a revenue generation business sense, uh, these companies, Meta, Alphabet, and Microsoft, don't they don't have a single product that is based on AI that can generate revenue. And if you notice, Apple has been very quiet. Apple has hardly said anything about AI in their products and services, right? So the day when AI can generate revenue from the company, I mean, I'm talking about companies like Nvidia is different from companies like Microsoft or Meta. Nvidia, because they are making chips that go into AI processing, so they can generate, they can see the revenue coming from there. But even then, even at that level, you look at a company like TSMC, they only get about 6%, 5-6% of their revenue that you can relate to AI. The rest, the 90+% of their revenue of TSMC is still coming from smartphones, still coming from data centers and so on. So even at the chip, even at the hardware, the chip level, AI is just only beginning to show some green shoots. But at the consumer level, at the application product level, where the companies need to generate revenue from AI, that day hasn't come yet. And based on those companies that are experimenting with introducing products that have got the AI component in it, they're still experimenting. They are not able to tell you confidently that they are going to launch an AI-based product this year, next year. So, well, like I said, if we cannot, we meaning at our side here, we cannot get simple things like getting a live session going smoothly in our stuff. Not sure how AI is going to, how soon AI is going to come to ordinary people like us. Oh, maybe we should send out a commentary message to all and apologize. Can we do that? Send out a message to apologize to all our people who are waiting so patiently for us. And then maybe we just give ourselves a few more minutes. I'm still checking with my staff on the status of the sound quality or the lack of sound. So maybe you can let me know with your simple response. Should I continue? Yes. Should I continue? Yes. Or should I stop? And you just put a no. Okay, some of you seem to be able to hear, although I don't see any comments on my side here. Can I have some of the comments? Can you share the comments for me? Because I got 0 comments in my screen. Okay, let me assume. Oh yeah, I can see the comments now. Yeah, I can hear clearly now. Sound is much better now. Okay, right. Great. Okay, before we start, I would like to do a simple survey, do a simple poll from you all. Please let me know. You can choose 1 or 2. Don't give me 1 and 2. Just choose option 1 or option 2. I give you 2 scenarios, 2 options. You can have a government. You have a government that can generate a GDP growth of 8% in the year. That's option 1, right? And another government that will say, look, I will promise you no traffic jam, clean toilets, no floods. That's the other government. So if you have to choose between option 1, government A, and government B, which government would you choose? Which option would be your preference? The one that gives you 8% GDP growth, or the one that says lesser traffic jam, no water disruption, and so on? Now, if you think that I think somebody says that 70% GDP growth is very ambitious. You might be surprised. In 2022, last year, Malaysia's GDP was the highest in the whole of the ASEAN region. And can you imagine our GDP growth of 2022 was higher than Vietnam, right? Last year, Malaysia achieved a GDP growth of 8.7% per annum. That's not bad, right? And if you look at Thailand, only 2+%. Singapore, economy that we most of the time lose out to, 2022 only achieved GDP growth of 3+%. Vietnam just a bit below 8, and Indonesia just a bit above 5. So 5%. Sorry, Malaysia 8.7%. So it's not impossible. I mean, Malaysia did it in 2022, right? Okay. So from the feedback that I've gotten so far, Leon is option 2, Wong Mason option 2, Yan Kai option 2, Mr. Cho option 2, Mr. Yi option 2, Tan Hanwei option 2, Mr. Uy option 2, Jeff option 1, SY Ng option 1, Lam Hoi Khan is option 1. So it looks like at this moment, a large majority goes for option 2, and about 30% goes for option 1. But that's only based on about less than 20 responses that we've gotten so far. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how many people are observing today. Normally, we have about a few hundred people. Today, I'm not sure because we're late, and then we got this technical issue. I'm not sure how many people have dropped out, you know. So anyway, oh, okay. Mr. Miss or Mr. Chao Chung San choose option 1 and 2. Ah, that's not fair. That's very smart. I also choose option 1 and 2. Option cannot choose option 1 and 2. That's not allowed because option 1 and 2, not because we are dictatorial, but because in practical terms, option to be able to achieve option 1 and 2 is impossible. Right? Impossible. You have to choose either one, especially if you're not looking at just 1 year. If you're looking at a period of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you cannot achieve both 1 and 2. But within 1 year, 2 years, you might be able to. So now, okay, what's the issue? What's the question all about? All right. I guess most of the, based on the replies, the responses that we've gotten is that people are looking for better quality in terms of more, in terms of quantity. And that's partly because of where Malaysia is now, right? Malaysia, we are, despite the ringgit dropping against US dollar, we're about 12,000 US dollars GDP per capita, which is middle income, right? We're not poor, based on the average figure, we're not high income. So 12,000 US dollars more or less is middle income. So at that level, you're not talking about a country where your GDP per capita is say $2,000, 2,000 plus, like India. India is only 2,000 plus. Well, Indonesia GDP per capita in US dollar is about 4,000 plus. So India 2,000 plus, Indonesia 4,000 plus, Malaysia 12,000 plus, right? So if you take the context of India, I guess most people would choose 1, high GDP growth, 8% GDP growth, because even without GDP growth, they are already having traffic jams. They're already having no water, no reliable electricity, dirty toilet. So look, I'm already suffering from all this. So why don't you give me high GDP growth so I can hopefully dream about getting out of this kind of horrible living condition, right? That's where if you're about 2,000 plus GDP per capita like India. But in the case of Indonesia, it's somewhere in between. It depends whether you're in Jakarta, talking to place Jakarta or Surabaya, or you're talking to somebody in Banjarmasin or Balikpapan, right? Because Indonesia is so big. Then you have Malaysia, 12,000 plus. And I guess the answers that we're getting is also based on not just the income level that Malaysia has really arrived at, but also based on the experiences that we ordinary Malaysians have been facing in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Right? We have been asking for clean toilets for such a long time, and we still can't. Although, to be honest with you, I'm very surprised that the toilets in my most unfavorable airport, KLIA, the toilets there have improved a lot. The, it's a lot cleaner now. The toilet workers there are so helpful, so friendly that sometimes I feel very, in Hokkien we say very paiseh. So toilets is something that we have been asking for, right? Clean toilets. Of course, traffic jams. Whether you're in Penang, whether you're in Alor, whether you're in any town in Malaysia where there are cars, everybody faces traffic jam. Horrible traffic jam. It's as if it's as if we are born to suffer from traffic jams. So who wouldn't want where you travel, where you go to work, where you go for your dinner, where you don't have to be worried about getting stuck in the jam? Floods, right? I remember in 2021, if my memory is correct, no, water disruption. In 2021, Klang Valley in that single year had 11 water disruption, 11 times. And you are talking about a middle income country of about 4,000 US dollars. You're not talking about Bangladesh or India, right? Or the ability to go during your off working hours, weekdays, I'm sorry, weekends, or after work to go to wonderful parks, wonderful places, recreation places, right? For those of you in KL, you know it's very hard to find a decent park where you can just sit there, chill out, do nothing, enjoy the sky, enjoy the tranquility. So we have reached that stage where most Malaysians are quite tired of the 8%, the 7% GDP growth, and then in our day-to-day life, we suffer. Our quality of life suffers. Whether it's going to work, whether you have to go out for lunch and you have to queue like mad, or you take public transport and then LRT is delayed, or whatever public facilities that you use are not working up to what is expected. So does it mean that if you take option 2, does it mean that your standards of living, your economy is sliding backwards? Right? Does it mean that if you have 8% GDP growth, that your economy, not just 1 year, but year after year, that at 7-8% GDP growth, that your standards of living is improving? No, because, okay, the first answer is if you keep growing at 8%, 9%, like what Malaysia experienced in 1991 to 1995, 96, that short period of 5-6 years, where our GDP consistently was 8% and above, right? And for those of you who have experienced it, you know the vibrancy, the dynamism, and so on and so forth. So shouldn't that kind of strong GDP growth lead to better quality of life, better society that's of better quality? Not necessary, as you can see for yourself, right? The traffic jams, for those of you who are familiar with KL, in the city of KL, whether it's Sultan Ismail, whether it's Bukit Bintang, in the 80s it was bad, in the 90s it was bad. Now, 40 years later, the traffic jam is as bad as ever, or not equally, it's not worse than before. So, sustained high GDP growth cannot translate by itself into better quality. And
if you have slower GDP growth of 3%, right, it doesn't mean that your economy is sliding backwards in terms of your income level, in terms of your quality level. What is important is this, like some of you said, it's actually very easy to get 8% GDP growth, right? All you have to do is build more flyovers, dig more roads, pave, tar the roads more often, right? And before you know it, you get 7% GDP growth. But how does the ordinary Malaysian benefit? How do we feel? How do we benefit from such kind of economic growth? We don't. In fact, we suffer a lot from the side effects of such high GDP growth because we only focus on the quantitative part. So what is the secret to having continued improvement in your income level and better quality of life? What is that secret formula? The most important thing that any country, not just Malaysia, any country must focus on is a term from economics called total factor productivity. T for Thailand, F for Finland, productivity for Philippines, TFP, total factor productivity. That is the most important factor that will determine, that will ensure that the country, whichever it is, small or large, can continue to enjoy a decent level of economic growth plus improvement in quality of life. Right? So what is TFP? You have labor capital, which is the you have labor productivity, which is the productivity of workers, people like us. And then you have capital productivity. That means you invest 100 million. How productive is that $100 million of investment? So you have two types of productivity, labor and capital. Right? Now, TFP relates to both labor and capital productivity, but TFP is more than that. Because if you look at labor productivity on its own and capital productivity on its own, you are not seeing it in completion, in completeness. When you combine labor and capital, you have a productivity from that integration, from that combination. Now, how you combine labor and capital, that will define your overall productivity. So if you are not able, if the country, if the government is not able to manage labor well and capital well, then your TFP will drop. So TFP is like, I want to use my own term, like system productivity. Because when you combine labor and capital, you are creating a system, you're managing a system, right? Say for example, uh, the LRT. You may have more trains at the MRT. You have more trains, more stations, right? That is in terms of your capital investment. You put in more and more investment in building more stations, buy more trains, right? But then, of course, you have to employ more workers, right, to manage the stations and all those the trains. But then, if you don't manage the overall MRT system properly, if you're not able to integrate the workers with the trains, with the stations, with the machine, and your software and your program, then you find that your MRT may not run efficiently, your MRT may not be reliable, the tickets of the MRT may not be affordable, and at the end of the day, you might import a lot of trains, you might build a lot of MRT stations, the ordinary commuters don't benefit. So if you take an example of TFP applied in this system, right, where, say in the case of the MRT system in China or in Japan, where they are very well both sides are very well, very efficiently managed, then your system productivity, right, improves a lot. Whereas, like in the case of Malaysia, our LRT, we don't maintain it well, it breaks down, right? MRT, we get this kind of problems and so on. So we lack, although we might invested a lot, and when you invest in building those MRT stations, your GDP number goes up. You build more train stations, buy more trains, you hire more train workers, your GDP growth number will go up. But it doesn't flow now because you are not able to integrate the human and the capital part and manage them efficiently. So your TFP is missing. That is why you find that in the case of Malaysia, we have a situation where, if you have high GDP growth and then you have all the inefficiency, that's still tolerable. Or I have all the quality, the efficiencies, but my GDP growth is say 1-2%, my income doesn't grow much, but still growing, it's still tolerable. But in Malaysia, we don't have attractive GDP growth, and we don't have good quality of life. So we have the worst of both worlds. That's that's terrible. So I mean, whether the current government or the future government will want to focus on the GDP number or the option number two, I think a lot depends on the message from ordinary Malaysians, from voters like us, right? Which government, which political party do we vote in? What kind of politicians are going to represent us, right? Because for us ordinary people, whether Malaysian GDP grows at 3%, 4%, or 8%, we don't care, we don't know. Most of us don't even read the GDP numbers, but we know whether your train is running on time and the tickets are affordable, right? And whether when I balik kampung or when I go back for my reunion, I get stuck in a 7-hour jam. That is what we know, that is what affects us. So I think the message from the quick survey that we had is whoever is going to be the government, whoever is going to manage the Malaysian economy has to focus a lot more on option two, has to focus a lot more on making sure that the public transport is affordable, efficient, accessible. Our public facilities, our public utilities, whether it's water, no more disruption, right? No more chemicals leaking into our reservoir. And floods. Why are flash floods? Why are floods occurring? A lot of time they said, oh no, it's due to construction, not done properly, or the water discharge is being blocked, and so on and so forth. I'm not a hydraulic engineer, I'm not a water engineer. It's all I know is that common sense tells me that that is really bullshit, because the floods are happening. I mean, it's just 2 hours of rain, right? And then suddenly you get that kind of flood. It's happening because we have poor town planning, poor urban designing, and of course, we have corruption. Constructions that are not supposed to be built are built. Constructions that are not supposed to be approved get approved because of systemic corruption. So whenever they say, oh, I want to spend 100 million to start draining the river in order to prevent future floods, it's not going to work. It won't work because it doesn't solve the problem. And at the end of it, we ordinary Malaysians get to suffer from this kind of inefficiency. So the issue, the message that we want to let our political leaders know is, look, we have reached Malaysia generally. Of course, there are inequalities, right, among ethnic communities, among physical regions, right? That inequality is something that has to be also be narrowed. But leaving that aside, Malaysia generally, on the whole, has reached a level where every extra dollar of GDP doesn't give us the same satisfaction, the same quality as it used to do 40 years ago. Now, the air that we breathe has to be fresher, right? The water that we drink, well, we don't have to buy filter, like, In the past, in the 60s and the 70s, when we drink water from, we are able to drink water from our tap, and we never had to worry that our water has got some kind of pollutant, some kind of chemicals. Never. I mean, I'm from Alostar. Our river is not the best river you can find, but even then, we drink, we boil the water from the tap without having to filter, without having to buy the expensive filter. So these things all matter to us, and our politicians are not listening. Our politicians are not listening, and our politicians are not implementing the right solution to address this day-to-day problem. I mean, look, you come out, you're going to go to work. Let's say if you're driving a car, right? I mean, I've gone to so many of the housing estates, the taman, right? Say, for example, in Pandan, Indah, or in some area in PJ, at 6, 7 o'clock, you can see, and these are the link houses, the terrace houses, you can see the roads in front of the houses are all blocked because the residents, each house has got maybe 3 or 4 cars, and they park outside, and the whole road in the residential area is all blocked with this car. So here I am, I want to go out, and it's blocked. Or if I take public transport, I got a different set of problems. So I think our government, whichever, current or future government, don't have to tell us that I'm going to give you 7% GDP growth. Hey, tell us that I'm going to make sure that your employment is secure, your business has got a decent chance of prospering or surviving, and more importantly, as your elected government, I'm going to give you good quality of life, good a good society. So I'm not sure whether the politicians will hear this, but let's. I don't know whether there's such an NGO. I can't think of an NGO that is able to convey such a message to our politicians, right? So I'm not sure what the channel is. Maybe if you meet your member of parliament or your adun, tell him, look, I'm not interested in all your this kind of nonsense. Can you promise me, for example, anywhere I go in Malaysia, I want my toilets to be clean and safe, right? Or every time when I balik kampung, every time when I go back for my reunion, you promise me that the traffic system will be a lot better. Why is there no alternative? Why are we talking about the high-speed rail connection between KL and Singapore when that 110 billion ringgit could be used to improve the TFP, the quality of our current domestic rail system? We have ETS, but the ETS between Penang and KL is so infrequent. You cannot use it for daily commuting. So can you imagine if, okay, Penang to KL is only about 300 kilometers. If you have a real high-speed train, like say for example those in Japan or China, right? It takes you only about an hour from KL to Penang without traffic jam, and reliable and punctual and regular. So why are we spending, thinking about improving domestic travel within Malaysia instead of between KL and Singapore? What is wrong with all our governments? I mean, every year, every festival, we get stuck, whether it's from KL to Penang or KL to JB or KL to Malacca or vice versa. You get stuck, whether it's Raya, whether it's Chinese New Year, and so on, every public holiday. What, you think it's fun to get stuck in a 6-hour traffic jam? And it's so dreadful, right? And then let's say your public holiday, your New Year Raya is on Friday. Now, you don't apply leave and go back on Thursday anymore because you know that Thursday is going to be jammed. So you apply leave 2 days, 3 days, 4 days before, so you can go early and beat the traffic jam. So this is TFP, this is quality of life. And it doesn't mean that when you solve this, the economy is going to go backwards. It may not lead to an 8% GDP growth, it may lead to only 3%. But what the heck? I'm happy with being able to balik kampung, we go back to my reunion in just an hour or two from say KL to JB or KL to Penang. So I'm using the high-speed rail as an example that our priorities are wrong, that it is within domestic Malaysia between KL and Kuantan or Alostar and Ipoh that connectivity, the mobility has to be improved because once that is improved, then your roads will get less crowded, right? Less cars on the road. And when your roads are less crowded, you don't have to keep on building more expressways. And if you don't keep having to keep on building more expressways, then I don't have to have a lot more connectivity issues, I mean road connectivity issues where you get drive on one flyover, but the flyover takes you to another traffic jam faster. That's all. So my problem that I face now is how can we get this message across to our state assemblyman, to our member of parliament? Maybe if you all can share with me how we can do this, and so that in the coming 6 state elections, we can have better representatives, better governments, right? Maybe I will look at some comments because I know I'm running late as usual. I keep remembering people telling me that my live sessions are always longer than other people. Okay, let me see what are the comments that we have. Oh dear, I cannot find the comment. Okay, let me see. SH Tan, poor supporting infra, car parks, feeder buses, MRT. Okay. SH Tan says in the near term, we need option one, 8% GDP growth. Must reach ordinary people. Option two can be addressed with more work from home. No, working from home will not lead to better quality. Working from home is not working from home is an issue that is not being carefully thought out. It's not being carefully considered. There are a lot of major consequences if more work from home is allowed, and these consequences can be adversarial and they have not been addressed. Okay, yeah, Mr. Chow Chung San says build more highway, then can get 70%. Is correct, totally agree with him. That is so easy to get the 70%, which is why from the 1990 to 1996 was so easy for our hopeless fourth prime minister to be able to achieve the 8% growth. Because it's easy, just put in more inputs, physical inputs, right? More equipment, more highways, and then hire more workers. You got no more workers, never mind, hire foreign workers. Then you get 8% growth. But the consequence of that was the TFP was neglected, which means you have current account deficit, which means a budget deficit. The budget deficit and the current account deficit made Malaysia extremely vulnerable to external shock, which is why when 97 hit, Malaysia was hit so badly. Because, I mean, I'm linking to you how we got so badly hit in 1997, 98 to budget deficit, current account deficit, right, to an emphasis only on option one, strong GDP growth, and neglecting option two, which requires total sector productivity. That's the linkage. Well, I hope it helps. I mean, you can call it an economic literacy live session or whatever it is. SH Tan asked, is increasing minimum wage justifiable under TFP? Yes and no. If I mean, there are pros in implementing minimum wage because Many of Malaysian workers are not earning what they should be earning. But if the issue, if the objective is to address social injustice, to address employers who are not paying correctly, there are many, many other ways instead of just minimum wage, right? The, we can cut down on the number of foreign workers, for example, like Singapore. Singapore government, how do they cut down foreign workers? Right? Because the local Singaporeans are not happy with having too many foreign workers. Okay, what they do is, fine, you want to hire foreign workers, you must pay a minimum wage. For example, our company in Singapore, we are under financial services in Singapore. If we are to hire a foreigner in Singapore for our Singapore company, even though the person is a fresh graduate, we have to pay them Singapore dollars 5,000 to 5,500 Sing dollars per month. Hey, that's a lot of money to pay for a fresh graduate. So automatically, the employers will say, no, 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 let me hire the locals. All right, the locals maybe previously was getting 3,000 Sing. Now the foreigner is 5,000. Okay, I hired the local, maybe 3,500, 4,000. So you improve the wages of your local people by having the right policies. So in the case of Malaysia, why do we have to rely on so many foreign workers? Low skill, low wage. Then you have to talk about minimum wage because these low skill, low wage foreign workers are competing with our local Malaysians, creating the supply and suppressing the wages that the employers would want to pay. Because if I don't hire a local, I can hire a foreigner with a lower salary. So the issue to tackle, the way to tackle this is reduce your reliance on low skill, low wage foreign workers and make sure that, for example, in the petrol station or in your labor intensive type of industry, are the employers given incentives to automate? Are they given incentives to reduce their reliance on the low skill, low wage foreign workers? No, nothing is being done. So to answer this question from SH Tan, the objective of having a minimum wage can be achieved in a much more efficient way, like the example I just gave. So it's not really under TFP, it cannot be justified under TFP. In fact, it probably will make total factor productivity lower. Okay, I guess I've spoken long enough, and I promised you last week that I was going to produce for you a recorded session on the Prime Minister who destroyed Malaysia. I'm still working very hard on it because there are a lot of materials and I don't want to drown you with all the facts and figures. I want to pick and choose and present it carefully for you, but I'm still working on it. Be on the lookout for this and make sure you watch it. And if you have any other suggestions, please send it to us on any topics and share our YouTube, share our Facebook, like, support us, subscribe to our channel, and of course, subscribe to iCapital.biz. I mean, our www.icapital.biz. With that, well, I will see you again next week, and I hope when we do our live outside our office studio in KL, that we will deliver a better performance. And I apologize again. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.